Assembly, acting as the Board of Equalization, will consider appeals to the 2014 property assessments that have not been administratively resolved by the Borough Assessor. Documents for the appeals will be presented by the Finance Department staff prior to or at this meeting. And I can provide some directions unless you would like to do that. Would you like me to go ahead? So just for folks that are listening and that are in the audience, the Board of Equalization sits in review of assessments prepared by the assessor. The burden of proof falls to the appellant to show that the assessor's value is incorrect. We make our determination based on facts presented at the hearing, and our determination should include all findings of fact. The things that we should consider are that the appeal must establish that the valuation is unequal, excessive, improper, or undervalued. And in terms of findings of facts, and I'm going back through my Board of Equalization training that we were given the other day, we will need to treat every case as though it will be appealed to the courts. The courts would review the record of the hearing. The appellant doesn't receive a new hearing, so we have to include our findings of fact in our decision. We place ourselves in the court's position to determine if we can understand why this board made their decision. We make sure that our findings of fact relate to the issues that the appellant brought forth. And if the appellant has made an assertion as to why the value should be lower, we need to make sure that our conclusions address the assertion as to why it was or was not considered appropriate. If the court can't understand our findings, then the case will probably get sent back to this board. We don't want that to happen. Our purpose is not to change assessments for the appellants. It's only to listen to the reasons presented and either agree with the assessor or agree with the appellant. And with that, the first person on our schedule is Robert Murray.
Where do you want me?
Probably at the microphone would be best, and if you could state your name for the record.
Robert Murray. I own Lot 25, Block 2, King Channel Subdivision. My appeal is pretty straightforward. Waterfront property is worth more than the back lots. But just valuing it on a straight acre value doesn't take into account the most important thing about waterfront property, the frontage. All of the other lots in my subdivision have an average frontage at 200 feet. My lot tends to be a little bit bigger because it's pie-shaped. It's 2 lots wide on the back. But that makes my frontage skinnier by about 10% compared to all of my neighbors. My contention is that if I have 10% less frontage, my per acre value should be 10% less. Pretty straightforward.
And I have not been through this process before, so feel free to give us some guidance.
I'm Arnie Erickson. I worked for the contract assessor. We assessed all the land in the channel in this subject area by size rather than waterfront. And to maintain consistency, I did not consider waterfront in this appeal. I assessed it the same way that I would have every other lot in the subdivision based on its size rather than front footage. And so rather than make an exception, I would move that it be denied because it's consistent in the valuation. It was done by a specific method, which is lot size. There definitely is a differentiation between lots that are on the water and those behind. There's quite a difference in acreage value. Generally, the waterfront is at $12,750 an acre, whereas the back lots can range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000, depending on the topography. Meaning, is it flat or is it by a mountainside? And it would be less.
And so I see on the back page that there's an action by the assessor?
That is written by me, yes. And I did, in consistency with all the appeals that I received, did lower the land value consistently on all the appeals. So there was an adjustment for the acreage size from an original valuation of $83,500 to one now of $44,400. And that was strictly on size and a redefinition of the acreage valuation.
And I see you reduced the, if I may, the building assessment as well?
I did lower the building assessment $8,800 based on its percentage of completion and other factors, which I believe that, yes. I corrected the inventory. There was a discrepancy on the upper floor as far as living area and what was not actually a porch, and I deducted those, and then the percentage of completion that Mr. Murray and I agreed on.
Thank you.
My question is at what point does frontage become an issue? If a person had a 6-acre lot with 400 foot of frontage, it's obviously going to sell for a lot more than a 6-acre lot with 40 foot of frontage. Somewhere, lot shape, especially when you're talking waterfront, has to come into the calculation.
So what I'm hearing, Arnie, is that all the properties here were, the waterfront ones were based on acreage, not like it was down in Washington State where it's based on the frontage right directly.
No, we did
Yeah.
not calculate
Okay.
values based on a front foot waterfront. No. And in answer to your response to Mr. Murray's question, I can't speculate at what point waterfront might become an issue. You know, you'd have to ask, I suppose, you'd have to have a sample size of parcel of buyers to say, you know, what weight did you put to waterfront versus the rest of the land?
Any questions or comments?
I guess I do, one comment is, I think Mr. Murray raises a valid point to look forward to look at. To be dramatic about it, like he was saying, you've got 600 foot of footage, you know, in a 20, you get the point. I think at some point footage does be, beachfront footage does become an issue. I believe it has to, as like nationwide it's shown that beachfront property has more value. The more you have, the more value it's got. That's my only comment. I think there's some validity in Mr. Murray's argument with that.
Any thoughts?
No, I'm, okay.
Mary, these lots, I think so I probably should have brought bigger magnifiers on.
Would you like me to get you one, sir?
No, that's
I can't.
okay. I'm better at faking things than really reading stuff. But the lots 7 through, I believe it's 38, are those all pretty similar priced?
Yes.
So
Everyone is all,
They're all valued about $44,000?
depending on their
Or
size, and you know,
40,000.
looking at it here, they appear to be all the same size, maybe a few square feet here and there, but, so they would, I would imagine, would be consistent in value, yes, going right along.
So right about the 40,000 level.
I would think so.
And the lots 4 and 5 that have quite a bit of waterfront, would you say they're still around 40,000 also? Yeah, the acreage may be off because they're odd shaped, but
Yeah. Can you tell me how big 4 is?
I can.
It's like
I can't focus.
2.78.
2.7.
2.78.
Most of those lots down there are about 2 3/4. Mine, because
Okay.
it's so wide in the back, is almost 3.5.
That one would be 35,400, lot 4.
Excuse me?
35,400,
35,000.
right, based on its acreage.
Okay,
So $10,000 less than mine.
right.
And
But then, so remember that Lot 4 is 7/10 of an acre less in
Right.
size.
Do you have a price on lot 5 as well? Just-
If you can
reference.
tell me the size,
Yes, sir.
2.059, I think, or?
Oh, your eyes are good. Yes, 2.059.
2.459. That would put it at 26.3.
Thank you.
Magnifying glass.
Let me use my glasses.
Well, I have to say that I understand Mr. Murray's concern in any area where parcels of land go for sale. The waterfront always sells first. It is the most desirable of the properties usually. Having said that, I don't know if I can make the determination that the assessed value is an unreasonable or excessive evaluation. And those are the standards that we're given to judge by.
As an aside, if we're looking at amount of frontage and such, the very first lot on the Kupernoff list of properties should be 5 Mile Creek. It's, if memory serves, it's about 27 acres. And it's not very deep, it's mostly on the beach. And if I did the math right on that, it was only $4,400 an acre, which is, it just doesn't jibe with the actual values. I think when the original assessment came out, that lot was valued at $120,000. And I know for a fact that it sold for more than 3 times that. I just, it's pretty bad inconsistency.
have there been any sales in your area?
Not in a very long time. There's quite a few lots for sale, but the market has been such that nothing's moving really.
The prices, the asking price is too high.
Then that's what it's been. The people that have the lots for sale are probably about $20,000, $25,000 higher than what people are willing to pay.
Yes.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with your comment. I mean, if the assessor would have placed a much higher value on the waterfront property, I could see the inequitability, but they use the same measurement for all of them. And so I don't see where it's inequitable either.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, hello, I'm Mike Renfro.
Yes.
I work with Arnie. I think that Bob's right in an area where you have higher density, smaller parcels, in a really high value area, that the price per square foot or price per front foot is a accurate measurement. We were following basically guidelines, how all the properties are advertised and how mental health and the state and everybody else have been selling their properties. And it's generally been on a price per acre, not a price per front foot. And that's the guideline that we used. I don't disagree with him that our price per front foot in the waterfront is the most valuable. There's no question in my mind about that. But I was just following how the properties are advertised and how they've been listed for sale on the other documentations, and that's the guideline that we used. If I believe that if these lots were more consistent in smaller sizes, that the price per front foot might turn out to be the way that they're going to be listed and be sold. But right now, it appears that the market, pardon me for coughing, the market and the information that we found was that they were selling on a price per acre. And that's how we tended to value all of them. And apologize for coughing.
Would anyone like to make a motion one way or the other?
I would like to move that we stay with the values presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we uphold the assessor's valuation on the Robert Murray parcel, Block 2, and I apologize that I don't know, 81-8, Lot 25. The Alaska Survey, 81-8, Lot 25. Will the clerk call a roll? All right. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
John,
Yes.
thank you.
The clerk's valuation is upheld. The next parcel on our agenda is Jean Bruno, parcel 02-276-910. Is Jean in attendance? Moving on to the next one. I'm sorry?
I think we need to accept or reject the assessor's valuation.
I think we just did that with a motion.
Seemed like the Bruno one, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you for that.
Well done, Jody.
Yes, keep us on task here. Any discussion on the Bruno evaluation?
Could I hear from the assessor on his explanation, please?
Sure.
Have you all had an opportunity to read the explanation?
Yes,
No.
I'd just like to.
No, go ahead.
Have you review it and
I did read through the lease, and he makes, Mr. Bruno makes two allegations here. One, that it's in the section of the lease itemized as 1D renewal, and relies upon the sentence, this permit is not renewable. What the language actually is intended or means is that the permit is not automatically renewed. You have to reapply. But there's nothing in there that says, no, once this lapses, you have to vacate the property, and we keep the improvements. It sets a criteria of, I believe, 6 months prior to the elapsing of the lease, reapplication may be made. Then second, he cited transfer of title to improvement, relies on the sentence, any transfer of title to the improvements covered by this permit shall result in termination. And what this actually says is that yes, you can sell these improvements, but you do have to have the approval of the Forest Service, the agency issuing the permit. So you can't carte blanche. But you can sell the improvements. In fact, I talked to the people that sold the improvements and then to Mr. Bruno. So it is possible. You don't lose your improvements.
May I ask if you talked to the Forest Service about the stipulations of the permit and whether?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, it's consistent, we applied that consistently throughout the borough. There's like half a dozen Forest Service cabins.
Go ahead, Bob.
They did not, that permit, or those permits don't have a termination clause on them, that the improvements have to be removed at the end of the life of that current owner?
I do not believe so. That does say in the lease document that, once the lease is terminated, everything on the property becomes the property of the Forest Service.
Both Mr. Lynn and I, just as some disclosure, have worked for the Forest Service and have had some responsibility for permits. And I know that at least in some cases, when these permits terminate, they can't be transferred. That may not be the case for this permit. And there also is often a requirement that the improvements need to be removed from the property, and so they only are of value to the person who holds that permit. And I would want to be assured that what you're saying is correct before I made a determination
Okay,
on this
well,
one.
I can,
I would be the same place, because I think that has a termination clause on it.
if I've missed something in here, maybe there is a copy of that.
Go ahead.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
Well, there-
I was going to ask,
Oh, okay.
could we allow me to have a chance to take a look at this and we move on to the next one? Would that be possible? And then we'll come back to this one? Could we do that? It'd take me a couple minutes.
I was going to say, I'd take a couple minutes and share whatever you read in there so that everybody has the same information.
That was my question. I was just wondering, you said there you have another half a dozen properties similar to this that you
Of Forest Service leases, yes,
and was your assessment done the same way?
exactly.
And are any more of those, are any of others are being appealed in this?
There was two others that were appealed, but they were on the condition of the improvements, not on the worthlessness
So
of
we
it.
don't have any in our packets?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
What have you got there?
The one condition, legal effects of the permit. This permit, which is irrevocable and terminable, is not a contract or a lease, but rather a federal license. The benefits and requirements conferred by this authorization are reviewable solely under the procedures set forth in 36 CFR Part 251, Subpart C and 5 USC 704. This permit will not constitute a contract for purposes of the Contract Disputes Act. 41 USC 601. This permit is not real property, does not convey any interest in real property, and may not be used as collateral for a loan.
I see two other important things on, City Manager Giesbrecht gave me a copy of actually the document that we're looking at. On the permit itself, it says under paragraph D, the permit is not renewable. And it also says under section I, transfer to the title of the improvements, under item number 2 on transfer of title, it says any transfer of title to the improvements covered by this permit shall result in the termination of the permit. And so it appears that Mr. Bruno is correct in his assessment.
But doesn't it further go on without the consideration? You can't, in other words, Mr. Lynn couldn't just automatically sell his improvements to me and I assume the lease.
That's correct.
It was my interpretation that with the Forest Service's approval, being a party into it, that because, as I say, I spoke to the previous owners and Mr. Bruno purchased it from them
That's correct, but I
And,
think this determination clause in this doesn't allow him to transfer it.
I guess that wasn't my interpretation, but
That's my,
you're certainly, having both been Forest Service employees, more versed than I. That was my interpretation reading the document, solely that.
I do know that in some cases, the Forest Service has taken the position that once these terminate, they wish to vacate any improvements that are on
Okay.
national forest land. And so the likelihood of this being transferred to somebody else is probably pretty slim in my estimation. You would need to talk to the Forest Service district here to see how they viewed
Okay.
it, but I know that that's been the approach in the past.
Okay, well, and I'm in error. It wasn't my interpretation and my discussion with the Forest Service, but as I say, I certainly bow to your expertise on this.
May I ask a question of this?
Mm-hmm.
So, how did Mr. Bruno acquire this with the property then? Wasn't that through transfer also?
no, he acquired the lease from somebody else. But this lease, and as I understand it, doesn't have, once he's done with the lease, he has it for life tenure. Once he's done with it, then there cannot be transferred. He cannot sell it to somebody else, the improvements.
Gotcha.
So in other words, next year, when this lease expires,
No, it would continue through his, my understanding is that we continue through his life tenure, but he can't transfer it. In other words, when he-
well, actually, in there, it does cite 2015 as the termination.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I guess my question is for probably you and Bob, under the renewal section, section D, that last sentence, the authorized officer may prescribe new terms and conditions when a new permit is issued. Isn't that saying that it can be renewed? I mean, I think the first statement, this permit is not renewable, I think what the contract is saying is there's not an automatic renewal. I think that last sentence is saying the owner, or in this case, Mr. Bruno, has the right to negotiate with the authorized officer, meaning the Forest Service, for new terms and conditions. I mean, that's how I'm reading that. That's the last sentence in number D.
I would say that you're right, Steve. However, the likelihood of the Forest Service actually issuing a new permit, I think, is not a guarantee at all.
Can the BOE consider likelihoods, or do they have to consider fact based on the contract?
Facts, but, my recollection is that permit, having some experience personally with that permit, is that it can go, I believe, but I can't prove it because I don't have any of the documents in front of me. My recollection is that can't be, he has it through his life. I think the way he set it up, and I'm not, again, I'd have to check, but I think the way the individual set it up is it could go to his son, but it cannot be transferred. It depends on how it was set up. It cannot be transferred once that's life tenure, and it's done. And all the improvements are to be removed and done away with. And the Forest Service over Southeast has been trying to get out of that.
Well, and
That's
maybe
exactly
not directly
correct.
related
But-
to this, but to all of your cases that you may hear where the folks aren't here to provide that information, are you allowed to include
No.
for consideration, information you don't have?
No, we cannot. You're right.
No, but I think we can refer this back to the assessor to find out the particulars, to make sure that his understanding of the Forest Service lease is correct.
If he's not here to protest it, maybe he's okay with it now. And I have questions. Where is this lease located, and how much did he pay? Do we know how much he paid for it to take over the lease?
I can tell you where it's located, Nancy. It's the end of the Narrows as you come up. You're coming north, be on the right-hand side in the first bite.
On the water.
It's on water.
So if he
Yeah,
decided to sell the cabin, someone could float it out of there.
Probably.
Yeah. Do we know how much he paid for the remainder of the lease or whatever he went through to?
There's an annual permit value, Nancy, but I don't know what it is
Yeah.
anymore. I don't know what he paid for it originally.
Jody, you look like you were going to say something before. No? Okay.
Help us out here.
Amber, yeah, Amber, you did too. Nothing you were going to add before in talking about, specifically about referring it back to the assessor? Nothing you wanted to add right there?
I think,
I think the assessor looks at it, what my feeling, and he's already reviewed all the information in the past,
Right.
and that's his recommendation.
Cool. Thanks for letting me follow up with you. I saw the body language and I wanted to follow up. I appreciate it.
it's, I think some of what you're saying is we need to make sure from our perspective
It's
how it's
consistent.
handled. You know,
Yeah.
it's the BOE, the purpose of this is for these folks to come in and provide evidence to their point of view relating to the assessment. The assessor is here to provide the same information in reverse, giving you guys the challenge of trying to make those decisions. The hard part is if folks don't come to present their case and you have additional questions related to this, at what point can you consider that or should you consider that? And that's,
But
That's a
And
valid
let me
question.
fill in the blank right there as well. As we know, as the BOE, the burden of proof is on the appellant.
Right.
however, in some of these cases, as I see it, there's a lot of property owners that are outside of town that aren't going to fly up here for this. But do we have a way, or have we established a way for them to participate in it, and did we get the notice out? And that's a rhetorical question, but,
Well, he's participated so far.
yeah, you're right, Nancy, but I'm just,
Let me ask the assessor a question. If this property was not transferable and the property owner had to remove the cabin at the end of the lease, would that have changed the valuation on the property?
No.
Okay.
And one other thing is, if you find that you have to accept this deal or, approve it, there is case law where we can go back 6 years to pick up property that was not assessed, was missed or whatever. So, if you're concerned about reviewing contacting the Forest Service, that certainly can be done. And then, if indeed it is found that, yes, the lease could go to somebody else and the improvements to somebody else, we can go back. If indeed my interpretation was incorrect, so.
I would like to move that, my assumption is that this person has the property, it's worth $46,000 for as long as he exists. So that the property value is $46,000.
The building value, you mean?
Pardon me?
The building value?
The building value, I'm sorry, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, where'd you go? But I would like to move that we accept this valuation.
Second.
It's been moved by John Haverlick and seconded by Nancy Strand that we accept the assessor's valuation on the Bruno property. Is there any discussion beyond what we already had? Seeing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Nancy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
no,
Jay?
Yes.
And that valuation passes. The Bruno assessment stands. The next name on the list is Kristen Dupree, parcel 03-143-010. And I do not see Kirsten present. So I'll give folks a moment to look this over.
question, because she might be expecting a call.
Okay, and it does say that she had gone fishing.
Yeah.
I'd just like to note that she feels the assessed value should be cut in half. The mill rate is already less than half. It's already been cut in those annexed areas. Isn't it? Isn't this part of the 4 mill area?
What does it have to do with assessed value, though?
Well, she's just talking about half there. It's already below half. The amount she will be required to.
Arnie, this is
That's two different
Green's
things, though, what we're
property.
paying and what
Yes,
we're...
it is. It was just an
On the
observation.
upside.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
But when she tried to sell it, she also tried to sell it for way more than the assessed value.
you got that down to almost now. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's about-
That one I don't recognize.
And because the meeting is recorded, if you can keep your comments loud enough that they can be captured, that would be helpful.
Will do.
It is in the 4 mill area, Nancy. I can't tell you exactly where the lot is. but-
Well, apparently it doesn't matter. Two different things, apples and oranges.
I had a-
Any other discussion? Yes.
Yeah, so the assessed value, you originally had at 90 in the building at 17.4, and then you, I'm sorry, this is for the assessor, and you reassessed it down from 90 to 63.8, and the building from 17 to 4,000?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So the overall assessment is 68,000, instead of 107,400.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, and that is in line with the others in the area?
Yes. That's the same $12,750 an acre was applied to this one as well.
Thank you.
So one of the directions, or some of the directions that we were given when we had the Board of Equalization training was not just that someone disagreed with their valuation, but that they presented evidence to show that the assessor had missed something or conducted their valuation improperly. And I don't see in this affidavit that there's enough information to adequately contest the assessor's valuation.
And I would like to move that the readjusted value of, from 107,000 to the 68,000 is appropriate.
I'd second that.
It's been moved by John Haverlick and seconded by Bob Lynn that we accept the assessor's adjusted valuation for the parcel owned by Kirsten Dupree. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Nancy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes?
Cindy?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Alrighty. That motion passes. The Dupree valuation stands as adjusted by the assessor. The next parcels are parcels owned by Jeff Hupp. Parcel 02-040040, parcel 02-040-050, and parcel 02-040-070. And Mr. Hupp is not present, but we do have his information. Does this include all 3 parcels here? I see 2 highlighted, but there are 3 on the list. Did one get resolved?
No, I've got all three in front of me, and I believe that I wrote up three different,
I've seen lot 26B highlighted on one map and lot 2 on the other.
Yeah.
And also lot one of the, on the last page.
Okay.
Lot one.
Okay,
And if you look on the second sheet of the appeal form that Arnie filled out, he did list the three different parcels.
okay.
Thank you.
Well, Arnie, I'll let Arnie talk about it. Who's the one that told us?
So is this his comment, land is undervalued because it is developed? What
Yes.
does that mean? He doesn't think you're assessing it enough?
exactly. And,
My question for the assembly, is there any other information Mr. Hupp has provided that I don't have in my packet?
You have everything that was provided. This is essentially a non-responsive appeal.
Roger,
Yes.
meaning
No.
number 3 is all that has been stated in the appeal. What I'm reading that Mr. Hupp's comments in number 3 is all that's been submitted?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the
You,
assembly? Go ahead.
Can you walk me through, you changed the value of the, I'm trying to make a track back and forth here to see what the original assessment was, and then I noticed you adjusted the values. Is that,
Okay, let me, no, I did not change any values.
okay. Or any building values at all?
I'm having a hard time tracking on this.
I am too. That's-
The first page says land 40,000, 35,000, and doesn't list a third parcel. On the back page, the valuations are different than the numbers on the front of the page.
They're the same.
I included the third set of numbers, and I can walk through what I did. If we look at the back, where I've got the numbers itemized at the top, what he did is he included lots 26A and 26B, and then the one other one. So really, on the front, you only see I'm in error here. No, I'm not. No, he included all his lots, but for some reason, it's not itemized. I took all his property.
Arnie?
Uh,
I think the problem is that Jeff originally thought he had paid to have a subdivision done. Remember, he thought there were one, and they really weren't. So this includes everything that he owns because he thought he had paid Rick Braun to consolidate, and really he never had.
Oh,
So that was part of the problem. He was upset, he thought we were taxing him in error for this third parcel, when really he bought it. If you can see, there's this, the very last page, it's got the lot 1, lot 2, and then that little sliver of the parcel, it's the north half of lot 26B. He thought that was inclusive of his lot 2, I believe. Yeah, lot 1 and lot 2 are actually
Could I-
26A.
Okay, that clears up.
Okay.
Talking about that may help. BOE.
Did you catch that?
Lot 1 and 2 are 26A.
Yes.
Right.
One of them is an older, lot 26B was split. He thought it was all one, that they had been, he thought he had paid to have this line removed, and this was all one, and this was one, and it never happened. So he thought he only had 2 lots, and really he has 3.
Okay.
So when he came in and talked to Arnie kind of got that straightened out, and that's why there's only 2 listed, but really he meant to appeal all
But it
of
covers
them.
all the acreage. Okay.
Did
Thank you.
see that, Bob?
I got it.
So the totals still don't. Okay, I see that that's that figure.
So I take it from his comments here, he wasn't asking to have it, not the land, but the improvements to be readjusted. He was more concerned about the overall, the land itself and how it was appraised. I'm not quite sure I understand.
Well, I didn't understand it either. You know, he makes no argument, or made no argument why it's undervalued in comparison to other land. And so,
Okay.
briefly, back to the original, why are there three cards or 3 values shown on the back? Is that all he provided in his appeal was lot 26A and 26B. Actually, 26A has been divided into lots 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So to be inclusive, you've got, although there's just 2 listed here, there are actually 3 pieces of property.
26B was split in half.
Yeah.
And so the other problem, 26B was split in half. There's the north half of 26B and the south half of 26B. Jeff Hupp owns the north half. A woman with the last name of Cook owns the south half. This $31,000 improvement really was on the south half of the lot. But it's such a small lot that it got put on the wrong one to begin with. So as soon as we realized that, we corrected that, sent the right information to the right person, and then that's why there's no $31,400 on Arnie's, on the back section.
Okay.
Because it really truly wasn't his improvement. It just looked.
So in fact, then you did adjust it, I mean, and you took that off.
Well, it wasn't really, it was really
Over.
error.
Here's the page next to this. This is this, and this, this. It would be easier for us to see if we had 2 pages.
It's very
So,
confusing.
Really, you guys should just make a big X through this plat that shows 26B as 1 lot, because it's really not. That's an old, irrelevant.
Yeah, I got there.
So I think that's where the confusion's coming from.
Okay.
So essentially what you have, as Amber was reiterating, you go out there, this is where his residence is. And then his lumber yard lays over this lot line. And then the barn structured back here. This is a vacant lot. This has an old mobile home on it that Ms. Cook owns. What Mr. Huff thought originally, and I met with him on this 3 times, was that these 2 had been incorporated so that this was one big lot, and then the house sat on another lot. This indeed did not get incorporated. The only thing that happened when he subdivided originally was that the house was separated. But he needs to, because the lumber yard. And I did speak both with Mr. Tennis, who works with Mr. Braun, and Mr. Braun also came in, because I did not see where these were incorporated. And they reiterated, yes, that was correct. No, there was not an incorporation. So what you got today in there was the 2 parcels and then this one. That's why you have 3 numbers.
So the information that Mr. Hupp presented is not correct. This is correct.
Yes, yes. It was my, I took it that he was appealing everything, and that's the way that, and that's why I presented it.
I guess I see no argument for why we would make a change, so I would make a motion that we stay with the assessors.
Second.
Bob Lynn moves and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Jay Stanton Greger seconds that we accept the assessor's valuation on the Huff parcels, lot 26, 02-040-040-050 and -070. Is there any more discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Nancy.
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and Cindy.
Yes. The assessment for the Hupp parcels is upheld. The next name on our list is Nick and Amy Osman, and they are not in attendance. And we'll take a minute to look over the petition.
Where is this?
It's by Rocky Point Lodge out at Pappy.
Yep, Mitkoff side. Yep.
This was the one with the pizza trust. Here you go.
I have a question for Arnie, if I may.
Sure.
Arnie, was this letter written by Mr. Osman upon receiving his assessment, or was that specific for this meeting? Was this a letter you received to try to resolve this prior to the BOE meeting?
Yes. Yeah, that's submitted as a part of his appeal. Yes.
And have you had contact with him since then regarding this?
I have emailed him with my recommendations. Now, these 2 appeals are quite interesting.
Would you walk us through I noticed you did bring the value down about 45. Would you walk us through your thinking process?
Okay, this again was when I recalculated values based on appeals and, knowledge over the last month. And so, in these areas, the Falls Creek area and that area down there through here was assessed at $1.50 a square foot. And so that's just that's a multiplication of just a simple math thing of his. Let's see, with the larger parcel, it is 0.701 acres, 30,562 square feet. And I'm showing my recommendation, yes, it was lowered down to, or I recommended that it be, to be consistent with everyone, be reduced to 45 acres.
So, do I have this right? He bought this in July of 2008 for $425,000?
Actually, that's what he states. Actually, I did look up the deed of trust. It just happened that the grandson of the owner of the property, the owner of the property, the grandson of 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 the owner of the property, the grand people that Osmond's purchased this property from stopped in yesterday, and I commented, "Oh, your neighbor down the street." And actually, the deed of trust shows $850,000. And if you'd like to, I've got a copy of that here.
Yes, please.
And I'm not sure that that's even pertinent.
Just
No.
curious.
Yeah. But I think that's not the standard by, the measure by which we're
No,
determining.
it certainly isn't. It just,
Thank you,
I
Mayor.
want to point out the actual price.
And the building value that you assessed, well, that was based on cabin or residential value, Arnie? How did you?
Residential value, that is on the road system, yes.
Okay.
Mid-comp is a bit different than.
Right.
And I would ask if you felt that Mr. Osmond presented enough of a case to contest
One
the
other thing,
evaluation.
if I might add, he talks in his letters of appeal about the economy and lowering values and that type of thing. Every year we do an annual report to the state assessor on their activities, and part of that is to produce the what's called the sales ratio study. And that's where we have actual known sales, because this is non-disclosure state and you don't have to say what you bought or sold. We compare those, and hopefully we will be at 1. 1 equals 1. The current sales ratio for Petersburg we submitted is 1.013. So we're pretty much spot on.
Mayor, I move that we accept the assessor's valuation on parcel identification number 02-083-355, owned by Nicholas J. Osman.
Second.
Jay has moved and Nancy has seconded that we accept the assessor's valuation on the Osmond parcel. Is there any more discussion?
I just have one question. The gentleman, Mr. Osman, said that he wanted to evaluate 33%. Is there any evidentiary fact that the properties there have devaluated 33%?
He didn't certainly produce any.
That's what I was
and,
wondering. Okay, thank you.
So, I know, are we doing both these? Are these two separate lots, and are we doing both?
They
of them?
are separate, they're separate appeals.
I made the motion for just the first one.
So for lot,
It's the
30
same,
dash
my
35.
paperwork has the same parcel number on both.
oh, you're.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't. You're right. Just 355 we're doing now?
I actually have the same parcel number on.
No, it's
No, one's
355.
355, one's
355.
335.
Ooh, it's tricky.
I
I did the
understand that.
355 one.
So we're referring to parcel 02-083 0 let's start over. This motion is in reference to parcel 02-083-355. Any more discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
And we moved to accept the assessor's valuation on the Osmond parcel 02-083-355. And now we are moving on to 02-083-335, also owned by the Osmonds.
And I move we accept the assessor's valuation.
Second.
Nancy Strand moved and Jay Stanton Gregor seconded that we accept the assessor's valuation on parcel 02-083-335 owned by Nicholas Osmond. Is there any more discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
The assessor's valuation has been upheld on the second Osmond parcel. Does anyone wish to take a break, or shall we move on?
I wouldn't mind a break.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
And then, okay, we can do that. All right, we are back in session, and the next parcel up that we are going to consider is Teresa Stolpe And the parcel is 02-285-215, and Teresa is here.
Good morning. We went through the paperwork, and we actually did some research online too. I submitted one copy of a parcel that was, I think it was, I didn't bring a copy because I thought it would be provided for you guys, because I had given it to Arnie. But it was almost 6 acres, and it was off of Metcalf Highway, about 12 miles out the road. And it had a single-story structure on it, and they were asking $35,000 for it, for the parcel and the property. And also, last night I was on a different website, and I found a piece of property that's over at Green Rock, so it's over in Kupernoff, and it's 5 acres, and it's going for $4,000 an acre. I mean, I know I got a call from Mike that they had dropped the land value from 52 to 41.4, and I don't know, we still feel that 41.4 is too high for a remote location like that. The parcel is heavily wooded. Our cabin, you can barely see through the trees when you're in the channel. And so we feel the value that he's assessed for the property is still on the high side. And also our cabin. I don't know what happened when it was assessed, but they came up with $113,600 on our cabin, which is a very small cabin that is in dire need of work. You can see in my notes there, I wrote down all the problems that are existing on it, with foundation problems and salvaged materials for the roof that's going to need to be replaced. And, you know, I mean, the list goes on and on about all the problems that it has. And so when I had gone in to talk to him, basically it came out that it was probably somebody else's cabin on our property. And so, you know, they were going to try to fix that. And there was a stack of photos that, oh, do you recognize this cabin? You know, asking me to verify whose cabin was whose. You know, so I really feel really uncomfortable with this assessment. But anyway, so I was looking at our house assessment, and our house came in assessed at here in town at roughly $37 a square foot for the house. And our cabin, which is very remote off the highway, I think I had talked to another gentleman who owned property out, you know, across from us, down the Narrows there, and he was told that that they had come up with $40.88 a square foot for cabins. So I really have a hard time, even with the reduction that they did, because they reduced the cabin from $113,600 to $20,300. They still, I think, are off on that as well too. I mean, $40 a square foot for a cabin as opposed to $37 a square foot for our home, a completed home. The cabin is totally uncompleted, no running water, no electricity, structural issues. If we had a fire out there, it's gone. If we have a fire in town, it can be saved. It just is way out of proportion, I think. And, you know, I recognize the reduction, but I guess I still don't agree with it. So.
I can't tell from this parcel where this lot is located. I see that it's on Wrangell Narrows, but beyond that, I can't tell.
Approximately
Right.
marker 15.
Well, which marker is
That
marker
would be
15?
on, call it about 1 mile towards town from Keene Channel. Is that a fair description?
Yeah.
Roughly?
So, just before the narrow splits. That's how I usually and it's on the Metcalf side.
So Teresa, did you resolve whether the cabin being assessed was in fact your cabin?
He did. He ran downstairs and grabbed a file that had a picture of our cabin in it, and I said, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there's not even, there's siding, old siding that's been on there for maybe 20 plus years on part of it, and then all the rest of it is exposed tar paper. Like I said, the roof is salvaged roofing material. It's just, it's in really rough shape. So, but it's just that the whole idea that, you know, that they're working off of $40 a square foot for cabin and our home in town at 37. It just, that's way out of proportion, I think.
One comment, and I hear where you're coming from, Teresa, for sure, looking at these rough numbers and the way you describe your cabin. And our job as the BOE right now is, it's either a yes or no. We don't get to kind of split the difference on stuff. Meaning, even if for the sake of argument, I thought that the assessor's land value was completely accurate and your building, you know, estimate was completely accurate. We're stuck in the yes or no position right now, as opposed to splitting the difference. If Mayor, I'm remembering our role correctly at this point.
Well, unequal, I'm trying to remember our three words here. Unequal, excessive, improper, or undervalued. That's what the appellant must establish.
Roger, and in terms of that, Mayor, just a point of clarification would be, we are not in a position to come up with our own numbers, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Arnie, if I can ask, the $40 value, is that when you did the reassessment and brought the value down, is that correct?
The, Mr. Lynn, the original number out of the schedule for cabins was $43.70. After adjusting it down for the percent incomplete, I probably apologize for my scribbled writing, I'm not doing well. And then adjusting for depreciation, the number came down to $21.37 for the cabin.
Okay, and what about the remaining life on the cabin?
We had 2750. We're saying about 23 years.
About 20 years?
23 years remaining life. It's but this I'd have to look at the depreciation schedule. That's just where it sits right now. If nothing was done to it, life could be shorter. You know, I used actually what happens is between Patricia and Teresa and I, and the difference on the cabin is her opinion on living there as to what condition it's in, and it's my opinion based on using a schedule as to what the condition is. You know, it's a difference of opinion. You know, it's the cabin is definitely not, pardon the expression, I don't want to be rude, but probably not the best cabin in the Western world. But you know, we're talking about a difference in basically $10,000 in her opinion as to what the improvements are worth and what my opinion are. You know, the land value is based on our same as our schedule that Arnie's explained earlier on adjusting those lots based on the information that we were able to garner after the original assessment went out. And so it's valued based on the same as the other waterfront lots in the Wrangell Narrows. We've lowered it down to be equal to everybody else's based on its size. So I guess the real question here between us is you know, she feels that the land's a little bit high, and we disagree on what the actual value on the cabin would be based on its current condition. No, that's fine. I have nothing else.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
And Mike, the information that is presented here in number 3 really didn't sway you to reduce values?
I actually dropped it, what I consider to be quite a bit. In my calculations, I went back based on the description and felt that the cabin was about 50% complete if you went to say, if you're gonna finish it off to be a real cabin, without electricity, without running water or anything, just an unfinished, really nice cabin. And then I depreciated it another 33% after that for its effective age. So I brought it down, maybe I didn't bring it down enough. In my opinion, compared to what I'd done on other cabins, I thought it was in the ballpark. Mind you, we tried not to be intrusive when Arnie and I were out looking at all the stuff. We didn't go in people's cabins, or even if doors were unlocked, we looked at the general condition. If it was easy to look in the windows, we looked in the windows. I do apologize that we had the wrong cabin on the wrong lot, and I can understand Teresa being upset about having the higher assessment originally. We did have some of these areas where we're trying to get some of these cabins straightened around. As we talk to people, as you're walking down the beach and you're not finding corner markers as you go down the beach, and you're saying, okay, well, this cabin should be here and here, we were off. And that's happened. We've had a lot of people come in. We've got them straightened around. I feel that we'll probably have most of those straightened up by the end of this next summer. I wished it was a little bit more precise. We don't have street numbers, and we had a lot of people that, to begin with, didn't really want to talk to us until we got the assessments out. I guess it's always nice to be a little bit high to begin with, and everybody comes out and talks to you, and then you can adjust all the values and go back, sort of like we did on the land values.
Mr. Renfro, back to this parcel, but at this point, you have the parcel identification number correct as of now?
The parcel is correct as it is right now.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'll quit rambling.
You're all right.
No, that's okay.
And the land's an equitable value to the surrounding,
Yes, it is. It's valued the same as the surrounding, after we made the adjustments.
and the cabin is, you're kind of iffy as to if it's,
It's a difference of an opinion between us as to the real condition of the cabin. I'm not living in it. I'm looking at tables to make my adjustments.
Well, I have empathy with Teresa here, I know the property too that she's referring to, but I can't see the criteria that we have to be able to make an adjustment. I don't think it's unequal from the other properties. I don't think it was incorrectly done. I don't see any other way to make an adjustment at this point, unless maybe somebody else does.
Unfortunately, nor do I, given the criteria we've been set, and I also empathize with where you're at. Given our strict criteria at this point, and the ballpark that they've gotten you
Yeah.
into, both property and cabin. Yeah, yes, I agree with what you're saying, Member Lynn.
How would you like to proceed?
I move we accept the assessor's valuation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Nancy Strand moved and Bob Lynn seconded to accept the assessor's valuation of the Stolpe parcel 02-285-215. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Bob,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
John.
Yeah, yes.
The assessor's value is upheld and the parcel 02-285-215 owned by Teresa Stolpe. Thank you, Teresa, for coming
Thank you,
in.
Teresa.
The next parcel on our list was Dennis and Jackie Tyson, and that has been resolved apparently in the hallway.
All of them?
Also, number 7 has been resolved, number 10 has been resolved, number 19 and number 20.
Oh, wait, so,
So that's number 6, number 7,
how do you tell?
number 10, and number 19
And 20.
and 20.
Check my email, it's
20.
right.
Very good.
So have any of them not been resolved?
The remainder have not contacted us to accept.
No, the Heimdall ones. Have all the Heimdall properties been resolved?
It is. my
Yes.
understanding. Yep.
You're saying all the Heimdall properties have been resolved? All right, we will move all of those parcels over to the completed list. Thomas Cooper is now resolved, so that leaves the next parcel up as, is it Louis or Louis Fry? And there are 2 parcels under consideration. The first one is 02-241, 02-041-300. And Mr. Fry is not in attendance. Did you want to present some information?
Mr. Fry has the next 2 appeals. This one, in both cases, we did not have any contact information, so we weren't able to discuss them. I did go out, look at the parcels. These were both purchased from mental health, and they lack physical access, and I did account for that, and essentially I agreed with his purchase price, because by the time he secures the permits and gets the state DOT right-of-ways and everything to construct the road into his property, then these values are realistic and commensurate with surrounding properties.
So has he seen the reduced value?
He has not, because, as I say, I don't have contact information for him. And even though I agree with his values,
The point of clarification, if I may, Ernie.
Sure.
At this point, the number he presented, for parcel number 02-041-300, he has considered fair market value 70,500, and you have concurred with that total.
yes, I have.
The only thing is that I think these are mixed up. On my sheet, oh, I see, they're 2 attached together, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
2 properties.
I would like to move to accept the reevaluation of the assessor on lot 02041-300.
Second.
John Haverlick moves and Jay Stanton Greger seconds that we accept the assessor's reduced valuation on the 2 parcels owned by Louis Fry, 02-041-300 and 02-041-310. Is there any further discussion?
That's correct, I'm sorry, I didn't add the second one, but I meant to.
And my
Hearing-
second still stands.
Okay. Hearing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Cindy,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and Bob.
Yes.
The reduced valuation on the 2 Fry parcels are upheld. The next parcel for consideration is one owned by Michael Carpenter, and Mr. Carpenter is not present. And we'll take a minute to look over the paperwork.
May I ask a question of Barney while we're looking?
Please.
Thank you, Mayor. Since you came up with your reevaluation number, Arnie, have you had contact with Mr. Carpenter since?
No, left messages that were not returned. Actually, Adam Barrier was out here for a couple of days from our office, and he was the one that was dealing with this specifically, and he left messages that were not returned, and we tried to follow up on that again, hoping to get, but we did not get a concurrence, so that is why it's before you. And with the reevaluation, well, I wrote it up, you can see the
Yep, I
value
got it.
suggested.
I would like to move to,
Wait,
I'm
I
sorry.
have some questions about this. It was acquired as a home site from the state? Do we know what year? Two questions. Was it from the state, and do we know what year?
If you'd like, I can.
Was not provided.
I don't think there was any homestead sites.
Home site.
Yeah, I see what you're seeing. It's right in Keene Channel, right, this property.
One end of it, kind of.
And I think that was on that same subdivision that whole set of properties there, he acquired it on that.
It is down, looks like the 10th lot from Bob Murray.
Yeah, yeah.
So it looks like this parcel is over 2 acres?
It is 2.059.
And so your reduced valuation brings you fairly close to the per acre price that Mr. Carpenter is saying his value
Yes,
is? Okay.
He felt 12,500 an acre, and I felt 12,750, so.
And that is consistent with the formula you've
Yes,
applied elsewhere?
it is.
Thank you.
I would move we accept the assessor's reevaluation of it.
Bob Lynn moved and John Haverlick seconded that we accept the reduced valuation that the assessor has assigned to the Michael Carpenter parcel 0, let me make sure I get this number right, 03-240-120. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
John,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Jay,
Yes.
and Cindy.
Yes. And the reduced assessor's valuation stands on the Carpenter parcel, 03-240-120. The next property on our list is Cynthia Fugelvog, and that is parcel 03-244-180.
Actually, the next one is George Mintel and
That
Cynthia Wallace.
It's been resolved.
Oh.
Question for Arnie as we're looking over, if I may. It appears, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that there has been they did not submit any information as to what what they thought fair market value was.
She did not.
Thank
And
you.
she was out of town, so I was not able to talk to her. And when I called the house, I wasn't offered any kind of contact information either.
Thank you.
But in this case, I did revalue the land and then did provide some depreciation, physical depreciation, because we have found with many of the cabins that, yes, there are physical deficiencies, and so we tried to recognize that. Therefore, the values before you are the product of that.
I'd like to move to accept the assessor's evaluation on 03-244-180.
And second,
John Heverlich moved and Bob Lynn seconded that we accept the reduced valuation on Cynthia Fugelbog's parcel 03-244-180. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
John,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Cindy.
Yes. And that parcel, the assessor's reduced evaluation is unanimously accepted. The next parcel on our list is Wandle Wynn, parcel 03-143-030.
I reviewed Dr. Wynn's appeal, went back and adjusted the land value to reflect the adjusted values that Arnie had come up with the appeals prior in the month. I called him twice, left 2 messages at his office on voicemail. I have gotten no response. And it's my recommendation that we lower the value to $42,400.
May I ask a question on this one?
Yes.
Of the assessor? On number 3.4, they said there's been environmental damage from the adjacent mill. Am I on the right one?
No.
No.
Okay, sorry. Well, never mind about that one.
This is the Wandle Wynn parcel?
Yeah, that's what I...
Where is this?
Fourth bullet.
Yeah, 4th bullet under number 3.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yep.
4th bulletin.
4th bullet.
Oh, I'm
number
sorry.
3 on the front page. There's only one page of it.
Right, but it
I don't
doesn't
have
tell me where it is.
No, but I was wondering if there's real damage on this property.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We were looking for handwritten and it was typed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But what is the location of this parcel?
This parcel is located at the, on Rangel Narrows subdivision on the other side towards the north end.
Get me a little closer, can you?
Near Blind River Rapids and the I'd love to see that too.
Pardon?
This is on Midcoff Island?
It's on no, it's not on Midcoff Island. Who's,
Tract E.
God, how far up? You know, are you familiar
Let
where,
me show 'em. It's in lot 23, right? I don't know if this looks like
you know, when we walked over there, I didn't see anything from a sawmill that would look to me like it would be environmental damage from adjacent sawmill, because we walked that whole beach along that whole side over there.
We need to put it in sort of
perspective.
geo-reference first.
Do you want me to get our maps?
I
Yeah,
think
that'd be
I think
helpful.
Arnie went to,
Thank
I
you.
think Arnie went to get it.
Okay.
Is it this one here?
Yes.
And Wrangle Narrows?
What did you see on you were on that lot? That you were
It
gonna?
just looked like
Try
it,
to pull
it just
Yeah,
looked
good
like a regular
frame of
lot when I
reference would
was
be great
walking
number.
along there, Bob. I didn't see a sawmill that on an adjacent lot that would, I mean, you'd think that if I saw a private mill or a big mill there, I would have seen a lot of logs or something that would indicate that there might be some environmental damage from a mill. And that doesn't strike me as being, an issue. I mean, it would have stuck out in our minds when we walked along that beach.
May I ask a question as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
Were you provided with any proof of environmental degradation?
No, nothing other than the letter.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I think she references the city or the borough not doing something about it. We don't have authority.
It's been noted.
And it wasn't part of the city or the borough until
Well, and
recently.
somebody
Yeah,
could have
also
brought
need to
a
know.
portable sawmill
Perhaps
in
I
there,
can give
cut
you
some
an idea.
trees and some lumber.
But
or
I
whatever
didn't
for
see anything like that. I didn't
Oh, we
see a
don't know.
portable
Give it
mill.
away.
Occasionally,
Was there anything in the records that
Okay,
asked
this
for
would be up
assistance?
this way.
I'm not aware of it.
He's letting people know it.
That would be the state's bailiwick, so to speak.
Right.
You know, if someone had a concern, they would go to DEC and, we, borough or city.
Yeah, I know what
and
you're
now the
talking
borough
about
is
now.
not necessarily aware of that.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to generally point.
I missed, well, I kind of.
The property is across, it's, if you come this way from Pappy's Landing in Scow Bay, and that, it's one of the properties that's sitting over there on that, on the Coopernoff site.
What lot number
That-
is it?
23.
20, sitting in there.
Gotcha, the Scout Bay area.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I promise by next year I'll be able to name the rocks and the buoys so that we can.
Well done, Mike.
So you have recommended that the valuation be reduced on
Yes,
this
I do.
parcel?
I recommend that we reduce it to $42,400.
Move we accept that valuation?
Is there a second? Nancy Strand moved and John Haverlick seconded that we accept the reduced valuation on the Wanda Wind parcel 03-143-030. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Bob,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes. It's been unanimously approved to accept the reduced valuation recommended by the assessor on parcel 03-143-030. The next property owner on our list is Karen Heggie. The parcel is 03-154-160.
Again, you get me on this one. This is on Karen's. She wrote in her appeal that it's raw land that, let's see, she said the value of this parcel is raw land is greatly overvalued. One time I spoke with a realtor, was admittedly a number of years ago, but at the time I was told that I would be lucky to get the $30,000 that I paid for the state for it. I reviewed your online tax rates, maps, and rolls, and am unable to determine how you arrived at the 99.6, especially when compared to such parcels as the northwest one corner. My parcel is encumbered with easements, all but the south side. Nautical charts designate the water to the east side as foul with rocks, this greatly diminishing any presumed value added to having the water to the property. I went back and looked at this as a 9.9, almost a 10-acre parcel. And we did have it overvalued on our schedule. The other thing that this parcel has that's unique to some of the other parcels, and I don't know if we copied the map on it or not, but it's on the section line. And as such, it is encumbered by the section line easements. And that is unique to a lot of the other properties that do not have these easements. I made an additional 20% adjustment for those easements. And section line easements are guaranteed by the state. I mean, you can buy your property if you're on a section line. There's a guaranteed by statute easement on those section lines that encumber the property. And so I came back and revalued her property based on the larger parcel number that we have, lowered it down, and adjusted it to $67,700.
Just for a point of information,
Yes.
what type of use could the state use that easement for?
Access to the adjoining properties to the rear or to the side of the property.
Okay,
You know, an example, this is sort of off the subject, in Anchorage, the Anchorage School District wanted to build a new school, and it was up on the lower hillside. It was a new elementary school. The title companies had missed the section line that went through there for the road, and the city came in and took the front of all of these people's property all along this road on this lower hillside area, and they didn't have to pay the property owners for it. The title companies ended up having to pay on their title policies because during the title search, they had missed the section line easements. And it's by statute a guaranteed easement. And they had actually missed that. I don't know if it was an error on the platting or what it was, but it was a big deal in the papers in Anchorage for a while. And that's another example of this particular lot being on the section lines.
When you say you adjusted it 20%, do you mean that you reduced the value of that particular, or you just said that that was of no value to him?
No, an easement, she's still got all the land there and everything. It's not like it's a full taking. I mean, the land's still on her property in this particular case. Traditionally, when I have easements like that throughout the state, it's about a 20%. It can be a little bit more, a little bit less for that. If they come back in and improve that and actually take that land away from her, then the adjustment would probably be more. But at this particular case, and in this location over on Kupernoff, and I don't think anything's going to happen with the land behind it right now. This type of easement traditionally is about a 20%. I mean, I've done the same thing for when I'm doing easements in town here or whatever. If it's not a full taking, if you still can walk on it and you can still enjoy it, the easement itself does not take the full bundle of rights.
Point of information as well, if I may, is if I'm reading that right, a 30-foot easement?
It's 30 feet across the back, and I assume that it's 30 feet on the other one. The other section line easement should actually be larger than that.
But the 30 feet is on each side of the line, not on her property.
Yeah, it's on each side, so it's 30 foot on her lot and 30 feet on the quarter section that's
Oh, I
behind it.
misunderstood. I thought it was 15 and 15.
No, it's 30 and 30. It's a 60-foot easement.
Yeah, so 30 on her property.
Yes.
Good deal.
Which means she can't build on that 30 feet.
No, you can't build on it. You can still walk on it. You can put lawn on it. You could put a movable shed on it. You harvest the trees on it.
That's interesting.
Something to look out for when you're buying land, especially out here in some of the rural areas, are those section line easements. That's the one easement I'd really take a look at.
Thank you.
So you've dropped your valuation on this parcel, but you have not been able to reach the homeowner to
That is correct.
resolve? Okay.
I move to accept the assessor's reevaluation of parcel number 03-154-160.
Second.
J. Stanton Gregor moves and Nancy Strand seconds that we move to accept the assessor's reduced valuation on parcel 03-154-160. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Ken,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Nancy.
Yes.
The Board of Equalization unanimously approves the reduced assessment on parcel 03-154-160 owned by Karen Heggie. The next parcel on our list is Janie Reed, parcel 03-243-230, and Janie is not present. And it looks like you have reduced the valuation on this parcel and again have not been able to reach the homeowner? Is
I
that correct?
spoke with Janie last evening, and we went over this, and I have a verbal agreement from her. She was supposed to email me. I have not, and I just checked again now. I have not received that. That's why it's before you. But, do have concurrence. We're getting into that section now where we have a lot of concurrence verbally, but we don't have something I can prove it.
Okay.
I would like to move, since the assessor's reassessment is very close to what the appellant requested, that we approve the assessor's assessment on lot 03-243-230.
Second.
John Haverlick moves and Jay Stanton Gregor seconds that we accept the assessor's reduced valuation on parcel 03-243-230. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Jay,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
And that motion is approved to accept the reduced evaluation on 03-243-230. The next property in question is owned by Barbara Davis, and the parcel is 03-212-155.
And I would like to move on the same basis as last, that the reassessment is very close to the appellant's appraisal, or the appellant's request, that we accept the assessment on 03-212-155.
I'll
Second.
second it, but is this a typo? Land, $20?
No, 20,000.
John Haverlick moves and Bob Lynn seconds that we accept the assessor's re-evaluation of parcel 03-212-155 owned by Barbara Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Just one quick question for Ernie. Have you spoken with the appellant,
I
since
get this one.
reevaluation has been done?
I've called 2 or 3 times and gotten no response.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call a roll?
John,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes. And that motion is unanimously approved to accept the reduced valuation on parcel 03-212-155 owned by Barbara Davis. The next parcel on our list is owned by Becky Knight. Is there any further information about that, or is that still unresolved?
So
It-
I did not give them copies of these because they
Oh,
were
okay.
the exact same thing as
Okay.
what happened to the other ones.
Okay, this particular appeal is on a lot here in town that we have assessed at $30,000. Rebecca Knight is representing her son, who is in the Gulf of Alaska fishing. They represented that they provided us with information that they bought the lot for $28,000. I lowered the assessment to their purchase price.
When did
I
they
talked to
purchase?
him, she was supposed to get back to me, and one way or the other, what she wanted to do, and I haven't heard back from her, and that's the reason why it's before you. We actually agree with their assessment, or what they thought it should be worth, and I agreed with them and was willing to give them the $28,000. You know, there's, I was gonna mention this earlier, if we agree with the appellant, then there's really not a conflict. And what we're doing here is just covering our bases for this year, if we accept the appellant's number. Just to make sure that there's no misunderstandings, and have people come back to us. Actually, like I said, the disagreement has disappeared. It's a matter of just formality for us to accept that assessment.
I would move on this one that we accept the assessor's value on parcel 01, 011, 378, I think it is.
Is there-
Second.
Bob Lynn moved and John Haverlick seconded that we accept the assessor's valuation, reduced valuation on the Rebecca Knight, on the parcel being represented by Rebecca Knight, owned by her son, parcel 01-011-378. Is there any further discussion?
Point of clarification, so your valuation and the appellant's is concurrent.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
And that motion is unanimously approved to accept the reduced valuation on parcel 01-011-378. The next, and it looks like the last parcel on our list, is owned by Sally Goodwin. Actually, 2 parcels, 03-241-330 and 03-248 03-210, and my understanding is you are now in agreement with the appellant?
She did agree, but this is another one where it was verbal. Adam spoke to her on these two appeals, and she concurred, but we have not received an email or something that, that locks that in, so. Good for you.
And we don't have any paperwork on that?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
On, I'll talk to Arnie. On 03-241-330, it's the assessor's recommendation that we lower the land to $32,600, which is consistent with the adjusted values for these parcels, and the cabin to $45,400 for a total of value of $78,000. On parcel 03-248-210, the agreed upon amount is, again, to lower the land to $33,500, was consistent with the other adjusted values on land. This property is over on Keene Channel, just for clarification. And after talking to the appellant, that the improvements are lowered to $144,600 for a total assessed value of $178,100.
What's the pleasure of the assembly?
Yeah. If I could, and she is in agreement with.
Yeah, Arnie has talked to them. They're in agreement with those numbers. They just have not responded to sign off. And again, it's a technicality, or because they haven't signed off, that's the reason why we're presenting it to the board.
thank you.
I move we accept the evaluation as presented.
Second.
Nancy Strand moves and John Haberlick seconds that we accept the reduced valuation on the parcels owned by Sally Goodwin. There are two, parcels 03-241-330 and 03-248-210. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Yes.
John, Nancy.
Yes.
And the motion is unanimously approved to accept the assessor's reduced value on parcels 03-241-330 and 03-248-210. And that is the end of our list. Is
I
there any-
have two more names on my list. Have they been resolved?
Yes.
How many more do we have? Any others?
Are there any?
I do have a question that came in late.
Yeah,
You
sure.
guys hit
No,
three.
Manish is resolved. He said it.
Yes, we did that very
Robert
first
Murray,
time.
yes.
And that's in your
Is
system.
that done?
At the very end, can you talk about those?
Yes, I will.
Do you have some additional information?
We have two appeals that were received late. And you do not have information before you. It's up for your consideration if you feel that you want to accept late appeals or not. Generally, the advice, I think, of the assessor is, you don't set a precedent accepting a step late, because then where do you draw the line? But certainly that, you're the body that makes that decision. But we do have these two, and we have not done a review because they were just received.
Are both of them outside the service area one?
One is over in Kupernoff Island, and by the Yates family, or Yates, Stephen and Wendy Yates. And the other is in, let's see, Frederick Sound. They're both in Farragut.
Was there any reason for them being turned in late?
Now, Miss Ellis, Jean Ellis, Hers was received yesterday, and she said, I had major back surgery at the Mayo Clinic on February 21st and just returned to Petersburg.
She was back before the 1st of April, though, I believe.
Yeah.
What's that?
She was back before the 1st of April.
When did we start the notification process for this process?
Oh,
Well, by notification, do you mean when we started telling people that we were going to be mailing out assessment notices?
That, and then when did we do the first mailing? Both of those.
We started writing in the paper at least the week before they were actually mailed.
And you were mailed on the 28th of February. And then it ran for 3 weeks in the paper, and there was 10 days out.
And it's still hanging in the post office.
And the cutoff date was what date?
March 31st. And Alaska statute says 30 days from the date of the mailing.
I would like to not set a precedent and move that we don't accept the late
Second.
appeals.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved by John Haverlick and seconded by Nancy Strand not to accept late filings of appeals of property valuations. Is there any further discussion?
Just one thought is, well, I certainly have empathy for the late filings, given that Monday was Seward's Day, the 31st, correct? And was the office open on Monday?
I was here from 7 in the morning till after 5 at night.
Was the door open?
Jody and I were both here all day checking messages, emails, faxes.
and we had a sign on the door.
And there's a Dropbox.
And we had a sign on the door with the Dropbox.
So, meaning, if in fact it was Seward's Day and I'm like, realized I was under the gun and it's a holiday, if I came to the front door, I could have had my,
You could have dropped it off at the Dropbox.
I could have,
And then the sign on the door said you could also fax it in, or a fax number, and list your fax number, or you can mail it in to Amber's email address, and that's listed as well.
so even given the,
Fax on Monday, and I could not do it.
Well, we received 4 or 5.
Anywhere in town was closed. I don't have my own fax. So I just my opinion.
The
Thank you.
Petersburg Pilot was closed.
Pardon?
The Petersburg Pilot was closed.
I don't believe I tried the pilot.
Yeah, that's,
but,
I mean, that's where everyone goes to.
I could have come here on that holiday, despite it was a state holiday, I could have come here on that day and found some sort of resolution.
You could have, yes.
Thank you.
What was the date that the 2 late filings were received?
Both on the 1st of April. One,
One was.
the one was received at 8:49 p.m. on the 31st, and the other was stamped on the 1st of April.
Did we notify the public that we would be making provisions
Yes.
for accepting these
And it
on
was
Seward's
right-
Day?
There was a big sign right on the door that said,
Was there something besides a sign on the door that let people know?
There was, Amber changed her voicemail on the phone, so if you dialed in and hit the number for property taxes, it would say, we are closed, but if you have a property tax appeal, you can email it to, and they gave Amber's email, they gave the fax number, and it said there's a Dropbox located outside.
and I'd like to reiterate that state statute says 30 days.
So
From the
30
date of the
30 days was the-
I understand that. I'm
So-
just, if there was a point of confusion and we didn't advertise adequately that people had a way of getting their assessment in on the last day, then that would be my concern.
It's also stated on the notice.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as a side note, I received the 5 Heimdall appeals that day. I was advised that the lady was at the door, and I went downstairs and opened the door, got them from her. Told them, and at that point reiterated also the Board of Equalization date and time.
Actually, and I had one appeal sign off, actually sitting on the stairs and discussing his property at the same time because the offices were closed. Somebody was beating on the door. Even though they could have dropped it off, I actually talked to him on the phone and asked him to come in He'd called in, somebody had forwarded the call upstairs to us, and I met with him and came in and he signed off. I can't remember who it is right now, but we signed off on the appeal. We weren't trying to hide out from anybody right up to the end. I mean, there was plenty of opportunity to get to us.
Oh, and I also went on Monday and checked the mail, and I got all the mail because there was a couple appeals in there, just to make sure.
And in the case of the Yates, who I believe have one of the lodges across the water, I did speak to a representative of them downstairs very early in March. At that time, he's mentioned that he had an appraisal and he would like to submit. And we generally look at those very critically because that's a much more in-depth analysis of worth. And so he was advised at that time, filed the appeal, and I'm looking forward to getting the appraisal. So I think they were well aware of what they had to do. I won't put words in their mouth or anything, but I think that there was a adequate advisement there of the process.
You know, it's interesting just on a side note, with the appraisals, there was a commercial appraiser in town that was appraising one of the lodges over on Keene Channel. And he actually came in and talked to Arnie, and there was a copy of that appraisal was provided, and Arnie was able to question him about the values and the comps and why the values were such and such. He was actually a help for us on some of those commercial properties.
We're actually, though, these comments need to be pertinent to the motion that's on the table.
I'm sorry, yes.
And is there any further discussion on the motion? Can the clerk call the roll?
Is to deny.
To deny accepting late filings?
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Motion passes. And I see we have another gentleman in the audience, and
I'm not sure if he wants to be.
yeah.
I had a call last night, and I wasn't clear about it, and I was told the gentleman was here, so.
Okay,
Is that-
just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm Ken Hammer, I just.
Oh, okay, Ken. I'll get you. We'll get it squared around here in just a second.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And spent a day with the helicopter over in Farragut, talking to people that were there and looking and measuring all the properties. Arnie and I did Agassiz and on a four-wheeler and talked to everybody over there that was home. The rest of the areas, we chartered even though I had my boat here, I felt that local knowledge of the waters was probably a lot better than having me run around and run into things. And so we chartered and went all the way around over into Duncan and all the way up and down the channel and up Petersburg Creek and everything. I did use my boat to go over to Kupernoff and some of the other areas. Arnie and one of my other staff members did the area on Mitkoff Island and the road system. There are a few. I don't know how to say it. You know, it was. Let's put it this way: it was more difficult than what I thought it was going to be. You know, but generally, I found the people to be, you know, maybe they weren't happy to see the assessor, but they didn't ask us to leave their property. Yeah, we had. No, the one situation where that came, we avoided that property. That person actually came in here and settled his appeal with Arnie. There was a threat, and I felt instead of continuing forward and having a situation where I continued forward, this person was very aggravated, that if he went and got a gun, then we've got a real problem. And then somebody's going to get in trouble. There's no reason for that to happen. I just avoided it, used telephoto lens, and like I said, that appeal was settled. They actually came in here and talked to Arnie, and it got taken care of. That was the only incident. There were some other people that were probably a little bit upset that we were coming. One person figured that he was going to be so upset, so the day that we were knew where we were coming up the beach down at the lower end, on the Mitkoff side, he decided to go to town and get groceries that day, and just happened not to be there, so there wasn't a problem.
Next year you can use a drone.
Yeah, next year. Now, in the overall, just things, it's been a fun assignment. I look forward to getting it fine-tuned a little bit better. I've talked to a lot of people this year. We've settled some appeals, and I've talked to them. I said, I'd really like to come over. You know, we've still got a few issues, but they signed off. I said, I'd like to come over this summer, probably in August, and talk to you. We've exchanged telephone numbers with a number of these people, and I look forward to going over and talking with them and see if we can solve the rest of their problems. Arnie, I wished I would have been here more. I had some issues, couldn't be down here for the BOE. Arnie and the staff have done a really good job. I mean,